Truma, makers of the Combi heater and iNet system, are proud to sponsor Practical Caravan TV.
Welcome to Practical Caravan TV, the show all about caravans and caravanning. We've got plenty coming up in the show, including a butch new all-wheel drive Mondeo and a test of the Bailey Unicorn Barcelona. But first of all, I've been looking at a family-friendly layout from Luna. When you're looking for a family caravan, what are the two things you look for? Well, space, particularly if you've got more than 2 children to accommodate, and lightweight ideally. Let's face it, most young families don't have a massive tow car with which to pull it. So it looks like the Luna Lexon 580 behind me is going to measure up pretty well. It's roomy inside and it weighs in at just 1,455 kilos, which is surprisingly light for a van with 5 berths. It also offers something that very few family-orientated caravans do, and that's a little bit of luxury. Priced at £1 under 20 grand. It's not a cheap van, but nor is it a wildly expensive one, and the kit levels look strong. You don't get heavy-duty steadies like you do in a Delta or a Clubman, but you do get Alco ATC, some rather nifty alloy wheels, and this great-looking triple front window. There are plenty of practical touches too. There's external access to the underbunk space at the back, an enormous front gas locker, and neat steps for you to stand on when you're washing the front of the van. The interior is full of practical details as well. Just take the storage options in this lounge. We've got underbed access to the bed boxes, we've got 4 large roof lockers, and that's largely thanks to the lack of a panoramic front window. But don't think you're not going to get plenty of light in here, because there's that rather nice sky view roof light which goes over both the lounge and the kitchen area. I must say, I do find the decor in here a little bit, shall we say, sudden, and it is a bit tight in here for 5 people. But then I think if this were my van, I would pay the 139 quid to lose this central chest of drawers and replace it with an extra seat. After all, it's going to be no hardship getting the freestanding table because it's fitted just here inside the kitchen cupboard. At night, of course, this does turn into a double bed. Again, it is going to be relatively narrow, but it's plenty big enough for 2 people. On the near side of the van, we've got a really big wardrobe and 4 drawers beneath. Plenty of space to store the family's clothing. But much more interestingly, on the off side, check out this kitchen area. It's really big. There's good sized lockers above, a microwave which is sited pretty high for some. It's okay for me, but I suspect plenty of people would have a problem with it. There's a separate oven and grill and a dual fuel hob with an electric hot plate. At first glance, it doesn't look like there's a vast amount of worktop here, but if you take away the removable drainer, there's masses of space there. Take away the cover from the sink and it's a decent sized sink too. Although it's largely redundant, should you need it, there is a worktop flap at the rear here as well, making masses of space. One slight criticism is that the fridge could definitely be bigger for a family of 5. I'm also not particularly struck on these white sockets, and there's only one in the kitchen. Earlier on I complained that the lounge was a bit tight. There's a very good reason for that, and that's that this rear space is absolutely huge. There's a massive dinette over there on the offside with lockers above, and here on the near side these bunks are simply enormous. The top bunk is a little bit narrower, but this bottom bunk is plenty big enough for a large teenager or a fully fledged adult. And there's a privacy curtain on the offside and of course right here. There are reading lights and a small window for each bunk, and there's another TV point in here. If you've brought your baby along, there's room to wash it in the washroom's enormous bowl sink. There's also a vast shower cubicle that's fully lined. There's room to change, and happily there's a frosted window too. I'm also particularly struck on the rather attractive lighting options that Luna has employed throughout this van, and you'll find them again here in the backlit mirror. Let's face it, a caravan with fixed bunks on one side and a dinette on the other really is nothing new. After all, it's been the family layout of choice for years and years. In this price band at £1 under 20 grand, the Luna has plenty of decent rivals. However, few of them are going to be as light as this. And also, I think in the Lexon 580, Luna has created something completely new. Here is a family caravan that that you're not going to grow out of when your kids become teenagers. Ever since the very first Bailey Unicorn was introduced, the fixed near-side bed Valencia single-axle model has been the most popular in the range, although these days the fixed twin-bed Cadiz and the transverse island bed Vigo are catching up with it. But what about if you fancy the idea of a Valencia but don't feel it's got quite enough space for you? Well, for around £2,000 more, a shade over £23,500 in total, you can have this. It's the Bailey Unicorn Barcelona. It features the same fixed near-side bed layout, but with an extra half a metre or so inside. It's a shade under 8 metres in length in total. It's good to see here on the offside that every service point is here, even the fridge and the electric hookup. And there's a few more things to see over on the near side. 2 external locker hatches, and towards the rear there, a 230 volt power point and an aerial socket, ideal if you like watching telly in your awning. But then of course this is a top spec Caravan, so we've got everything else you'd expect. Alco secure wheel lock points, Alco ATC and an AKS hitch stabiliser. The only slight oversight for me is the fact that there are heavy duty steadies at the back but only standard ones at the front. Bearing in mind that this van has an MTPLM of 1723 kilos, it does seem surprising that there wouldn't be heavy duty ones all round. Now it's blowing a gale outside, as you may have heard already, and even though Bailey have kindly let us use their rather smart new training centre today for filming, I'm rather keen to get aboard because the Aldi central heating has been on for the past hour or so. Oh, it really is lovely and warm in here. That Aldi heating really is a must for a top spec Caravan these days. Initially, the lounge doesn't feel wildly different to that of the Valencia, if I'm honest. In fact, this sofa is the same length in both this twin axle version and the single axle. That said, the lack of bulkheads in here does make it feel rather lovely and airy. And of course there's that fantastic front window, which is a feature of every Unicorn model. There's plenty of storage in here, including some nice options such as this drop-down flap, which makes the most of the storage space in the bed box here on the offside. The other half is taken up by the boiler for that Aldi unit. There isn't one of those access hatches on the other side, but of course you do get external access to that bed box. At the front here there's the usual pull-out table above the chest, and of course a lovely big front shelf which has a couple of 230 volt sockets, a 12 volt socket and an aerial point so you can use it for your TV. There's another TV point here on this massive sideboard, and it's here in the middle of the van that you really do feel where that extra space is over the single axle. And there's a vast amount of storage options, which of course is what you need when you're going to be spending an awful lot of time in the van. Beneath the sideboard we've got a trio of drawers and a rather nice sideboard cupboard. And there's another nice touch at the end of the bench here. You'll find a little shoe cupboard. Over here on the off side of the van we've got the expected dual fuel hob and separate oven and grill. It is a shame that the microwave is mounted directly over it, although it is a reasonable height. It's not too high. One other thing that I would have liked to have seen, particularly bearing in mind that people will spend a lot of time in this Caravan, is an omnivent to get rid of those cooking smells. We've actually only got this mini Hecky roof light above. Otherwise there are a few quibbles about this kitchen. It's really good size, there's plenty of worktop, and of course there's the obligatory flip up worktop flap should you need more. There's a couple of sockets and even a natty little cocktail cabinet here to store your bottles. Underneath, because Bailey puts its gas bottles in the middle of the van, it shifts the cupboard out a bit, which rather neatly creates a visual separation between the lounge and the kitchen, but also gives you more worktop and this rather spacious cupboard beneath. And moving to the back of the kitchen, what do you need if you're going to spend time actually living in a Caravan? Well, you need a proper fridge. And we've got this huge fridge with a separate freezer compartment above. The main bedroom is hidden away back here behind a fabric screen. And if you want the whole area opened up, there's a blind in the bulkhead that can be raised up too. Now these days a transverse island bed seems to be the layout of choice, but there's still definitely a place for this near side fixed bed layout. After all, the bed tends to be a bit larger. This one's 6 foot 2 inches long and feels pretty wide. Despite this being a twin axle Caravan, the bedroom isn't exactly massive, and that's partly because we've got a really good sized wardrobe here on the side that often tend to be quite compromised in this layout. There's a lot of light in here though. Above me there's a large roof light, and in the side a really good sized window, so it feels good and bright. A nice welcoming view out if you get a good pitch. There's also masses of storage space. We've got 4 overhead lockers and 2 open shelves, that wardrobe of course, and underneath me there's a vast void underneath the bed. Behind the wardrobe there's a mirror, it's always handy to have in a bedroom with a shelf beneath, and underneath that we've got the storage for the lounge table. The L-shaped washroom is a good size. Swivel the toilet and there's plenty of room for your knees, and there's a decent sized radiator in here. There's a large sink with a cabinet beneath and a window above, although a shame it's not frosted. There are some neat details too. The fully lined shower is huge, with a neat moulded shelf with drainers, an eco-camel shower head and a ventilating roof light. At first it's hard to see the appeal of the Barcelona over the Valencia. After all, it's a near identical layout. It weighs quite a bit more, so you're going to need a hefty tow car to pull it, and it costs more. Not only that, but with that twin axle layout and its overall size at about 8 metres long, it's not exactly an easy thing to herd along a country lane. But then very few of these vans are going to be touring along little lanes and going to visit small villages. They're likely to spend several weeks at a time on a pitch, or perhaps the whole season. And when you're spending that much time in the van, you'll really appreciate that additional space in the middle. It's proper living space. And when you're living with it, I suspect that that 10% extra cost will have seemed a small price to pay.
For some caravanners, four-wheel drive estates are just about the perfect tow car. You get the all-weather ability of four-wheel drive, but with the luggage space of an estate car. This Ford may look like any other Mondeo estate, but under the skin, power goes to all 4 wheels.
With a curb weight of 1,703 kilograms, the Mondeo has an 85% match figure of 1,448 kilos. We match the Ford to a Swift Expression 626 with a mass in running order of 1,413 kilograms.
With 178 brake horsepower and 295 pounds-feet of torque, the Mondeo's 2-litre diesel engine is comfortably strong enough to pull a big caravan like the Swift. With the powershift gearbox in sport mode, it accelerated from 30 to 60 miles per hour in 11.4 seconds. Thanks to the 4-wheel drive system, there's good traction even in wet weather.
Strong acceleration is matched to assurance and poise in an emergency. Pushed really hard, we could feel the Mondeo leaning on its outside front tyre. There was no pushing and shoving from the Caravan, and the Ford always felt in control.
At 60 miles per hour, the Mondeo feels composed and steady. It takes very little effort from the driver to keep a straight course.
The Mondeo is a practical tow car as well as a quick and stable one. Inside, the big Ford may not be as well finished as a VW Passat, but the interior is solidly put together. The driving position is comfortable enough for long stints behind the wheel. In the back, there's not quite as much legroom as in a Passat or Skoda Superb, but we can't see too many owners complaining. There's enough room for adults to travel comfortably, even if those in the front of the car are tall. Unusually for an estate car, the Mondeo estate has less luggage space with the seats upright than the hatchback version. With the rear seats lowered, the estate has more room for bags than the hatch, but some rivals offer more space for your holiday bags.
For most caravanners, there's better value lower down the Mondeo range, but if you tow all year round and in all weathers, the 4x4 could be worth paying the extra for. It's a stable, quick and very capable tow car.
It seems almost a contradiction in terms to call a Caravan sporty, but if any Caravan warrants the term, then it's probably the current Sterling Eccles range. I mean, just take a look at it. There's that matte black hitch cover and the matte black gas locker lid, plus those super stylish graphics and the alloy wheels. Those graphics work particularly well on this 565 model. It's got fixed twin beds and weighs in at just shade over £19,000. It's a really interesting van as well. Before we move inside, however, it's worth pointing out a couple of things on the exterior. On the offside, you'll find all the services neatly relegated away from the awning. And here on the near side, you'll find a gas barbecue point and a 230 volt socket. Those aren't actually standard kit. They're part of the club pack that's fitted to this particular van, which is a special edition with Caravan caravans. It also comes with an alarm. One thing you won't find, however, is Alco ATC, because that's an optional extra. It does, however, have an AKS hitch stabiliser. There are a couple of things to note around the back here as well. One is these 2-lay bars, which are standard across all Swift Group caravans, and it means that you can mount an optional cycle rack to the back. The other is this little badge here. It tells me that this van is fitted with optional Aldi wet central heating. It's a £749 option, but to be honest, you won't find very many caravans that haven't been fitted with it. Now really that dramatic exterior should have warned you, but if you were expecting some sort of traditionalist quaint interior in this Sterling, you'll be somewhat disappointed. Or shocked perhaps, because it really is very modern and, dare we say it, quite continental in feel inside. We've got these rather smart leaf effect curtains. The only woodwork you'll find in this van is this piano black effect, which goes around the bases of the white cupboards, which are dramatically set against a Hessian wallboard. These seats are also a Hessian effect, and the worktops, well, they're white too, which is not hugely practical, but it does look rather modern. It's a very stylish interior, but then there are the traditional touches. We've got access to the underbunk storage from inside, and it's a fairly spacious lounge too. You could probably sit 6 at a squeeze here, or perhaps even 7 if you paid the 175 quid to have a wraparound U-shaped seating instead of the central chest. Because they're decent sized sofas, they make a really good sized double bed as well, although I reckon they're probably a little bit too short to be used as single beds. One thing that techno geeks will like is this pod on the front shelf, which has got 2 230 volt sockets, a 12 volt socket, though sadly no USB point, an aerial point and a satellite TV point. There's a stereo, of course, which is standard kit, and the speakers are up in the roof to give a decent projection of sound above this rather fetching panoramic sunroof. Now, although the fixed twin berth layout was traditionally seen as a couple's layout, the idea being that you could have your own bed and you could get to the bathroom at night without disturbing each other, it also works very well as a family layout. So you can put your kids to bed in the back here and then make up the front double for yourselves. And a family caravan needs a good sized kitchen. It's not too bad. It's not perfect. The fridge could be bigger, and I have to say this is the smallest cutlery drawer I think I've ever seen. But there's a decent amount of worktop, along with a worktop extension flap and a top spec oven and grill with a dual fuel hob. There's storage in both these good sized cupboards and a standard microwave, which sensibly isn't sited directly over the hob. Plus there's a good sized sink for washing up. Sadly only one power socket. Now if you're feeling rather short-changed on storage, don't worry. So on the near side of the van there's a huge great cupboard down below and a whopping wardrobe above it. The only thing I will mention, however, is that above me we've only got a ceiling light. There's no omnivent or any kind of roof light, so for ventilation you're restricted to this kitchen window. That funky finish continues in the bedroom. I really like this wallboard and these rather nice headboards for the twin single beds. Now, finding a caravan that accommodates growing teenagers can be tricky, but these twin singles really do. The near side bunk is 6 feet and the offside is 6 feet 4. And of course you can shut your kids off from the rest of the van by pulling a screen across. The storage options in here are great. We've got 5 overhead lockers, and then we've got access underneath the bunks with these little panels. Under here you'll find the storage for the table, which is better than having it in the back of a wardrobe or even in the washroom. Each bunk gets their own little shelf and a reading light, and over here on the near side you'll find a TV mounting point plus all the sockets and aerial points. Squeezing in those long twin bunks does mean a bit of a compromise in the washroom, and space, particularly around the toilet area, is quite tight. That said, there's a good amount of changing space in the centre thanks to the small sink and the cupboard beneath. The shower cubicle is large and fully lined with moulded shelves, and there's an Aldi radiator in here if you've gone for the Aldi option, along with a frosted window. At a little under 1500 kilos, or a fraction over if you go for Aldi heating, the weights for the Sterling Eccles 565 are pretty sensible. It's quite heftily priced though compared to some of its mid-range rivals, at a tiny bit over £19,000 with Truma heating and nearer 20k with Aldi. As with every Sterling range, the Eccles has a swift twin, in this case the Challenger. But while the Challenger is getting harder to justify against the well-priced and well-spec'd Sprite range, which looks pretty visually similar, the Sterling really does stand alone. The Eccles has a unique look. It's sharp on the outside and really fresh and bright on the inside. Throw in fairly sensible weights of around 1,500 kilos when laden, and it's an appealing proposition for a family that dares to be different. You'll be able to enjoy a fun-packed family break all year round at Cofton Country Holiday Park, which is an all-singing, all-dancing site near Dawlish in beautiful South Devon.
Facilities on site, we've got an outdoor heated pool that's open in the summer season, an indoor heated pool that's open all year round with a sauna and steam room. We have a cafe on site, again that's open through the winter as well as the summer. We have 3 children's play areas on site, catering for all ages, one of which is a woodland adventure play area with a zip wire. For the adults, there's coarse fishing on site.
This large site has holiday homes in addition to a massive 470 touring pitches, so you expect plenty of amenities, and you get them, with plenty to keep the kids entertained, including an indoor swimming pool, an amusement arcade and an outdoor adventure area.
We also have the Warren Retreats where we offer the entertainment. That's open every day during the summer season with entertainment on in the evening, anything from bingo to cabaret acts. We offer food down there as well, a delicious Sunday carvery every Sunday throughout the year as well. Adjacent to the swimming pool patio we have our traditional Swan pub with a very cosy feel for that ideal quiet drink or evening meal. All of our food on site is locally sourced and cooked by our talented chefs in our kitchen, freshly to order. Also on site we have our park shop, offering all the essentials you can think of. We have an arcade with a variety of different machines, ideal to keep the children entertained. We even have 10-pin bowling and pool tables. On a nice day like today, you can visit the donkeys. We also have woodland walks on site. When you're touring and camping on site, not only do you have your usual water and waste disposal facilities, we've got heated toilet blocks, showers with plenty of hot water, private wash cubicles and disabled bathrooms and dedicated family bathrooms too. There's lots to see and do in the local area. Dawlish is just a few miles away where you can go and visit the historic Black Swans. From the park you can walk to Dawlish Warren Beach. That takes about 40 minutes, but you can also take your car down. There's also Paynton Zoo, an ideal family day out, and just down the road from us is the historic Powderham Castle.
We like coming down here. We've been coming for about 7 years. The children really like it down here. They're just off on their bikes around the park.
Should you be looking for some top tips while you're staying with us, my main one would be that you don't need to use your car while you're on holiday. We've got the bus route just on the entrance to the park that can take you down to Torquay and up to Exeter. We're also not far from the train station that goes down to Paynton as well. Bring your bikes with you. We've got the cycle route, which is family friendly, right on our doorstep. It's such a fantastic facility and will be fun for all the family.
Believe it or not, the trailer you see behind me is completely invisible. Or at least it should be when you're driving this Range Rover, because it's equipped with Land Rover's new transparent trailer technology. It's a research project at the moment, but it uses the cameras on the car and an additional one mounted on the back of the trailer so that you can see what's going on behind you. It's ideal for caravanners who are nervous when towing. And we've come here to Burley Horse Trials to give it a try. So I'm joined now by Jeremy Greenwood, a Principal Engineer with Jaguar Land Rover's Research Department. Jeremy, tell me a little bit more about how this system actually works.
Okay, what we've got is a camera mounted on the back of the trailer which we feed into the vehicle. We then blend it together with images from the vehicle cameras so that we provide an image to the customer which looks like a ghost of a trailer following them, but they can see through that ghost to the road behind.
And is the camera powered by the usual hitch electrics?
It isn't. We considered that, but decided that it wouldn't be reliable enough. We know how difficult the electrical connections can be on caravans and trailers. So we've arranged for the camera feed to come in wirelessly.
And you mentioned caravans there. Do you think this application will work for caravans as well as horse boxes?
Very much so, and it's going to be an even better fit with a caravan, which tend to be larger and a bigger obstacle to being able to see the road behind.
Fantastic. Well, that's great news for caravanners.
Indeed.
I'm afraid that brings us to the end of another show, but don't fret because we'll be back very soon with plenty more great tests, including the Knaus Sport and Fun and the VW Passat by TDI 4Motion. In the meantime, if you're missing us, drop in on our Facebook page or keep up via our website. And don't forget that if you want to keep up with the motorhome news, Practical Motorhome TV follows in just a few minutes. Until next time, bye-bye.
Truma, makers of the Combi Heater and iNet system, are proud to sponsor Practical Caravan TV.